Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was saying some insane things as U.S. senators destroyed him today.
We are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at the CDC. They did not do their job. This was their job to keep us healthy.
Thank you,
and I need to fire some of those people to make sure this doesn't happen again.
America is actually one of the 30% most healthy countries in the world. And over the lifetime of the CDC, they have eradicated smallpox, rabies, significantly reduced STDs, significantly reduced COVID rates, to include 25 other diseases. It is estimated that about 14 million COVID deaths were prevented in America, and 64% of the global population of COVID deaths were prevented as a result of COVID vaccines. As a Secretary of Human Healthcare Services, I would expect you to know this information and not make blanket statements that are just false. On the other hand, Robert F. Kennedy caused a measles outbreak in Samoa where 80 people were unalive and took no responsibility for it at all. And he also recently caused a measles outbreak in the US. As a matter of fact, he recommended people take vitamin A vaccines to stop the measles outbreaks. Robert F. Kennedy gave a lot of people something to believe in when he was questioning American healthcare when he was first running, but it's clear he's not qualified to do the job if he's firing professionals rather than working with them on a better solution. Here's Senator Warnock giving it to RFK Jr. straight on his measles outbreak problem and its danger to American citizens.
For the first time, we're seeing deaths from children from measles. We haven't seen that in 2 decades. We're seeing that under your watch. You are a hazard to the health of the American people.
Can I respond to that, Senator?
No, I claim back my time.
We need to wrap up.
You are a hazard to the health of the American people. I think that you ought to resign.
When we take a look at this chart, measles outbreaks in the US were barely reaching 10 on a month-to-month basis in the previous years. Now we've reached over 1,500 measles outbreaks February 2025, right after Robert F. K. Jr. took office and became the Human Healthcare Secretary, to which he does not take credit for this measles outbreak. Furthermore, the biggest driver of measles outbreaks is low vaccination rates, and right here you'll see it's more concentrated and bigger in Texas, where vaccination rates are incredibly low. I think it's normal for us to question vaccines and what's in them and if they're actually doing anything. Trust me, I am all for questioning the American healthcare system and what's going on and what they're doing to us. But I'm starting to believe that RFK Jr. is not the person fit for this role. And we can make the argument that these things take time, but how many children are going to die as a result? And I don't think sacrificing children is the way. And I think people would be more likely to give him a chance if he was actually stating factual information and not blatantly lying in court and not taking any accountability whatsoever for his statements. Here is RFK Jr. saying vaccinations have no scientific certainty.
We have to acknowledge that there was a cause. We acknowledge that there was a benefit. We can't quantify either one because of the data chaos at CDC. And that's all I'm saying. And they think I'm being evasive because I won't make a kind of a statement that's almost religious in nature. Did it save 1 million lives? Well, there's no data to support that.
There is data. The COVID vaccine has saved approximately 14 million lives in the U.S. alone, and as I said earlier, about 64% of the global population. However, that is only an estimate. Let's continue.
It doesn't mean that I'm, anti-vax. It just means I'm pro-science.
You're not pro-science because if you were, you would have this information readily available as the Human Healthcare Secretary. And you are anti-vax, and I am by no means pro-vax. I think people should and can do whatever they see best and fit for their family. However, I'm going to provide facts and correct information as far as everything we have so far regarding healthcare. Here's RFK Jr. blaming school shootings such as the one in Minnesota on antidepressants and SSRIs, and then saying he never said it.
Blaming school shootings on antidepressants. You have no evidence of that because you have no evidence of a connection. And you want to talk about...
You're just saying something. You're just making stuff up.
This is what you say, right? Secretary Kennedy, when someone presents you with information that does not fit...
I did not blame that shooting. I have no idea whether... I have no idea, and I never said that. You're making it up. You're twisting. Yeah, you are.
Secretary
you are being
Kennedy.
Dishonest.
Okay, well, she's being very dishonest apparently. So let's take a look at the video where he actually said it himself.
And we're still trying to get a lot of answers to a ton of questions. But the one thing is clear, you are dealing with a person who's trans, that was transitioning. Are you going to be examining at all some of the drugs that are used in order to make that transition happening to see if it plays a role? Because we also know there was a trans shooter in the Tennessee situation.
Yeah, we are doing those kind of studies now at NIH where the potential contribution of some of the SSRI drugs and some of the other psychiatric drugs that might be contributing to violence.
So he didn't flat out say it causes it, but he did heavily imply it does cause it. And whether that's true or not, because if we take a look at a 2017 article, it does say in 2007 that the FDA admitted that it causes madness. But to get back to court and tell the person you're speaking to that you're making stuff up when this did come out of your mouth, it makes you appear as dishonest. Stand by it, you said it, stand on it. If you don't remember, say that. But to call somebody a liar for something you did imply because she didn't word it exactly how you implied it makes me question what else is going to come out of your mouth and whether that's true or not if you think it makes you look bad. 2023, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Just to quell any speculation, under no circumstances will I join Donald Trump on an electoral ticket. Our positions on certain fundamental issues, our approaches to governance, and our philosophies of leadership could not be further apart. Look, I'm all for people changing their minds for the better once they learn stuff and they improve. And look, I was wrong about this back then. But one thing I can't stand is people who constantly go back on their word. The second something else benefits them that goes the opposite direction of this righteous moral bubble, they go there immediately. And while I truly believe that RFK Jr. truly believes he's doing the best thing for America, he keeps showing us time and time again why he's not qualified for this role. Health aside, we fired the airplane experts, airplanes started crashing. We fired the healthcare experts, now we have a measles outbreak. The best solution to work towards a better future is to work with experts. That way we can find a solution toward all of this.
If we don't end this chronic disease, we are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC. They did not do their job. This was their job to keep us healthy.
Thank you,
And I need to fire some of those people to make sure this doesn't happen again.
I agree that we do have a chronic disease problem in America and that it does need to be handled and dealt with, but I think it needs to be handled and dealt with appropriately. I think many people are turning away from doctors and healthcare and trying to fix things themselves because there's only so many times you can go to the doctor and they tell you it's all in their head or it's something that they don't know how to deal with, so they tell you to drink more water or lose weight. So while there definitely are parts of America's healthcare system that do definitely need to be fixed, especially when majority of Americans believe that healthcare is a for-profit organization, the last thing I think people want in America is a liar being the human healthcare secretary. Because a real leader takes accountability, and a real leader doesn't pretend to know what he's talking about when he doesn't actually have the facts. If you're concerned more with looking good than actually doing good, you're not fit for the role. Here's RFK Jr. saying America did the worst with COVID than anybody else.
America is home to 4.2% of the world's population. Yeah, we had nearly 20% of the COVID deaths. We literally did worse than any country in the world. And the people at CDC who oversaw that process, who put masks on our children, who closed our schools, are the people who will be leaving.
This is another blanket lie, and it's disappointing that he does not know this information and presented it in this manner. Peru did the worst regarding COVID, but that's because of their lack of access to healthcare. And America falls about 15th on the list for per capita deaths for COVID. And while it could have been handled a lot better, I agree there, it could have been handled significantly better. And we know why it was not handled as well as it should have been handled. And a lot more deaths could have been prevented and should have been prevented. These blanket statements are not good for uneducated people to hear. If you cannot prevent the facts, you should not be in your position. Too many lives are going to get harmed at false information given to them from someone who's supposed to be viewed as the expert. And if you still think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is an expert on this situation, here's a senator asking him, do you accept that 1 million Americans died from COVID? RFK Jr. said, I don't know how many died. The senator said, you're the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and you don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID. Why are you speaking in an area you haven't even done research on? And why are you acting on a population of 360 million people on an area you are not even educated on? You went to Samoa, told them not to take vaccines, 80 people got measles outbreaks. You became the Human Health Care Secretary, told people they don't need vaccines, especially measles vaccines, a measles outbreak occurred. We need an honest person leading our healthcare system. I think that's going to resolve a lot of our problems, and I do not view him as honest. And finally, RFK Jr. implied in this video that vaccinated children have lower IQs, they become poison. See, this is the rhetoric you spread to people that don't have enough information, so they go, I'm never getting any type of vaccination ever again for my children. All of a sudden, measles is back. All of a sudden, chickenpox is back. There will be a day where we clean out the corrupt officials in office and we get somebody that actually does want to help Americans. But RFK Jr., at this Senate hearing, you have showed us that you are not that person. More than being qualified for any role, and you could argue this is the most important quality or aspect, is integrity. I agree on some points. There's too many sick Americans. Chronic diseases are rising. People are getting allergies they've never had in their life. It's sad. It sucks. It needs to go. We need to find out what the problem is. But let's be very real here. Trump only hired you because you had about 5% of the presidential votes during the election, and he knew if he had you on his team, that pretty much secured his win. He needed you, and you needed him, because Kamala Harris did not respond to you when you asked to be her human healthcare secretary. You were DEI. You were what all rich people do when they need a favor. Because the incorrect definition of DEI that is used today is actually nepotism, and that is what you have been your entire life. Thank you all for watching this video today. Please let me know what you think. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you next time. Have a good one.